the last one, the Sony A7R4 landed with all the noise of cotton falling 2 centimeters off a branch. I do believe the A7R5 has a little bit more fanfare working for it. Hello everybody, I'm Yeager from YeagerShots.com, here to chat about today's announcement, go over a few of the plot points. The new Sony A7R4R for resolution is on the way, but I have a gripe, which I knew was coming. First things first, for some strange odd reason, it was very hard to find the pricing for the camera. Let's go over here to our Chrome window, and I am aware that my Chrome window isn't working because we are live. Let's see what we can do about that. Boom. $3,898. That is going to be a markup from the $3,000 of the Sony A7R4. And there's two ways to look at that. You say, okay, well, look at what you're getting. This is even more of a hybrid camera than just a stills camera. Or you're saying to yourself, I don't know if it's that much of a markup or that much of a upgrade. I don't know. A lot of the R users were just only into still photography, and I'm not sure they really wanted the video features, which is a valid complaint to make, to force you into the ecosystem, to force you into getting video features that you're never going to touch, or stills features that you're never going to touch. But the bottom line at this point, everyone's going to have great stills. Everyone's going to do pretty great video. Autofocus might be another subject, but the autofocus is probably the drawing factor here on this camera. This is what it's going to be all about. Can we go back lower third? All right. $3,899 with the same Beyond's XR processor as the Sony A7 IV and as the Sony A1, A7S3, but this time it's a dedicated AI processor included inside the camera. And what that's going to do is have about 20 points of body focus, parts to focus on, from elbows, limbs, joints, to improve autofocus, and I'm hearing maybe learn what the subject is that you're photographing in a moment or videoing in a moment, and that way it will know to track that particular subject, no matter if people are walking in and out of frame or not. So that's the big claim to why this camera is relevant. That's its relevancy. That's the big thing. So this processor is definitely going to be coming out in the rumored A7A1 Mark II, whatever they're going to call that. But let's talk about the camera that came out today. And my big gripe is that we're still on the CF Express Type A cars instead of the CF Express Type B cars. For those who don't know, Type A just got the single PCIe lane, 1 lane of traffic versus 2 lanes of traffic, where more traffic can move on 2 lanes of traffic with Type B, but with Type A, it's slower, long story short. And the capacity for the memory cards is nowhere near where Type B is going. And there's a thing you can say, all right, so it's a little bit smaller card, lower storage, a little bit slower speed. All right, so what's the big deal? The big deal just happens to be the fact that the cards cost more than the Type B. How does that even begin to make sense? It's kind of like Sony not putting those other cool video features in their video-centric cameras. How does this make sense? Back over here, if I can get my Chrome window open, let's check out CF Express Type A cards. 160, well, that's a 2-pack, terrible example. 320 gigabytes are $649, and if you double that, you're talking about the price of a computer, $1,249 for a 640 gigabyte card. The problem with having this dedicated, I guess we could say, sort of hardware is if it does not get adoption, you're kind of in trouble. And there's nothing else seemingly taking the CF Express Type A cars but these very niche full frame alpha cameras. I am not aware of anything else taking those. I'm not super aware of anything taking the CF Express Type B that much either, but those are cheaper, higher capacity compared to the more niche Type A, which just seems to be only a thing that Sony's adopting. I would definitely like to go with Type B, and I don't care if it added 2 more centimeters to the camera height, because actually the R5, R6 feels a little bit better for my pinky finger in my hand, so that's really not that much of a gripe as far as I'm concerned if the camera's got a little bit taller. But when you're dealing with 61 megapixels, it's not really the speed problem. It is just the hidden cost of these Type A cards that is the aggravation, frustration. But they did fit something on the back of this camera. The flip screen, and I complain about, those who've watched know full well I've complained a lot about this, is now very much like the Panasonic flip screen. More on that in a moment. Let's go through a few more things here. There's insect, car, plane, train focus, 693 points of phase detection, and there's, not to get too far away from talking about the cars, the compress raw now has what the Sony A7 IV got in a firmware update of the small, medium, large RAWs, in addition to the compressed RAW and the uncompressed 61 megapixel RAW files. So small files will be 16 megabytes, the medium will be 26, and you're saying, so why would that matter? More space on a memory card, and sometimes like in wedding events, you're just shooting people partying, you don't really need that full resolution photo of all the random photos you'll fire off in that situation of people on the dance floor, unless it is one really, really good electric slide boogaloo going. Full-size HDMI, USB-C, which is what you kind of gotta have. I'm not sure if there's a micro USB, but there's a full-size HDMI, USB-C. And the thing about the USB-C is we want the iPhones to have them, and I'm just kind of corded out here. I might even have like an umbilical cord laying around here somewhere. There's just so many cords. So fine, USB-C is good to go there. The actual pipeline for video is a little bit confusing if you're in APS-C crop mode or the full frame mode. That's one that Gerald and Dunn can break down way better than me, but you do have your 8K. As far as they're concerned, up to 30 minutes. Some people who have the test units that came out, I think test units are just units for media, because I'm not even positive review units if it's not final firmware. Those have been said to go past 30 minutes in 8K. You can do, allegedly, I have to put an asterisk on this, 16-bit RAW to the Atomos Ninja 5, and here's another Atomos Ninja, is it VR? I don't want to mess those letters up. So it can output video using a Ninja, and there's a dedicated still video S&Q mode with the button dial mode 1, 2, 3, having the button in the center of it that most of the Sonys have had, except for the A7 IV. Interesting choice right there. And finally, the flip out screen. Oh, do we have any visuals here to talk about how great that screen looks? Just flipping out and tilting up. Oh, I don't want that border. Yeah, that looks normal, right? That looks like, sure, you've seen that all before. But wait. Yeah, I guess we'll have to keep waiting. I don't have stills of that. Oh, how do I not have a still or video of the amazing new flip out? Bad live streamer. My apologies. With the new flip out, it will tilt up, down, flip out for vlogging mode, selfie mode. I don't know if anybody's trying to trademark that or not. Of course, flip back in. Thinner than Panasonic when they did this, and it took so long for this to come to Sony. I was wondering if Panasonic had some kind of trademark or copyright on this. This is, not cooler than AI, machine learning autofocus, but it's pretty up there, because Panasonic was kind of on the wish list of things I wish they would just straight up rip off how that screen reacts to people. So that's my big gripe. I'm not pleased with our still having to use USB, or I just keep saying USB, CF Express Type A cards. I would like for it to be Type B cards, but that is the way it is going to be. All at a price of $3,900 plus tax, and that's US prices, $3,900. The Sony A7RV is here. Oh, and yeah, I know. I put R5 instead of like RV. It's tough being a live streamer. But that is the news that you know. If you feel like a comment away. I'm going to be talking about how I edit some photos of the A7 IV, not R4, but the 4, in harsh sunlight conditions a little bit later on the channel. So definitely stick around by subscribing to see how all that goes. And I will talk with you all a little bit later on. Have yourself a time, and I guess happy new full frame alpha launch to the people who are into this camera, which I am. I think it's cool. Somehow or another, I got my hands on so many of these things. Don't even really know how. Just right place, right time, and knowing people who have them. It's just random situations that pop up. So at some point, I'm sure I'll get a pinky finger on this one, and we'll talk about it right here on YeagerShots YouTube. See everybody subscribe. Never miss a shot from YeagerShots.com.